What has been your biggest, I really thought I knew this person moment? I was with my partner for 15 years. We were high school sweethearts. One day out of nowhere, he started this fight with me. A fight big enough to make him suggest to stay at a friend's house for a night to cool off. The fight was over me, buying a male coworker gummy bears. The night turned into a week. He blocked my phone and I was unable to reach him. He came back in the middle of the night to grab things and told me he wanted to break up. I was so confused and felt blindsided. I ended up finding out he was in a 10-year relationship with a girl he met on like a roleplay Discord server. He was living a double life. When I would go to sleep at night, he would be on the phone with her. He flew out to get engaged to her the week he blocked me. The kicker is, she was married when they got engaged. This was a year ago. She is still married and my ex is still in a relationship with her. Really sorry to hear this. I had a similar situation. My former fiancée always had a very active online life before COVID, but during lockdown, she pretty much stopped caring about anything except her online life and started getting really irritated if I interrupted her online bubble, which was like 16 hours a day. We went to couples therapy and things started getting better, and I was feeling optimistic about the whole thing. Then suddenly, when we were starting the process to buy a house, when she announced she didn't like hanging out with me anymore and asked me to move out. The week before she threw me out, she started a bunch of really stupid arguments. I have wondered if there was another person in the online realm. I'm truly sorry to hear that you went through such a challenging and painful experience. It must have been incredibly difficult to discover that your partner was leading a double life and engaged in a long-term relationship with someone else. The level of deception and betrayal you experienced is undoubtedly overwhelming. A girl I worked with a few years ago ended up being one of those creepy catfishers. She initiated and continued an online relationship with one of her best friends, even made up other ancillary accounts for all the other made-up friends and family. She was such a lovely girl, too. Really witty and fun to work with. I'd love to know the psychology behind this. It's gotta be a wicked amount of dopamine people get from behavior like this. Sounds like a lack of self-esteem to me. No one would actually like me, so I guess I gotta pretend to be someone else. Turns online dating into an escapist fantasy. My cousin was recently catfished by his girlfriend's mom, who was impersonating a young woman and testing him to see if he was faithful to her daughter. When my cousin's girlfriend found out, she was angry with him for chatting to another young woman, and not angry with her mom for catfishing her boyfriend. My mom is afraid he's going to get this dumb girl pregnant and or propose to her, which her parents seem to be pushing him on. This old Southern woman catfished me for years. I only found out because she died. When I spoke to her, she had her son and daughter pose as a brother and sister to her. I love the variety in this thread. One comment, you've got a girl being dishonest and catfishing people. And then the comment above has an Interpol wanted criminal decapitating a professor. I saw a show on TV like that. The girl pretended to be a handsome guy talking to her friend. They ended up tracking the IP address. Turns out it was a 16-yo, I think. Could be off on the age. But she was young. Your own experience with being catfished by an older Southern woman who involved her son and daughter in the ruse highlights how intricate and elaborate these deceptions can become. The motivations behind such actions could range from loneliness to a desire for control or a distorted sense of connection. The diversity of stories you've shared, from workplace catfishing to familial involvement, underscores the prevalence and versatility of this behavior in different contexts. Good friend of mine, known each other since we were very young, etc. On the phone one day and he sends me a screenshot of a Reddit post he thought was funny. I joke about how now I'm going to go stalk his account, user visible in a comment, and he gets freaked out and hangs up. Thought it was strange, so checked out his account. He was active in some very disturbing subs, talking about how he successfully seduced a 10-year-old girl, and if there was anything actually legally wrong with doing things with her, since he was also underage, 17. Me and best mate at the time reported him, but nothing came of it since they couldn't prove he had nefarious intent. Aware enough of his Reddit history to verbally freak out and hang up the phone, but not aware enough to just delete the account or the incriminating content first. Truly dumbass. There are websites that archive Reddit posts and comments, so nothing is truly gone unless you delete your comment quick enough before the next sync occurs. Even if web archive methods won't work, there's still always the manual, screenshot, and snip other users can do. If the comment is egregious enough, it's easy to find image links of those comments. Not even to mention, if someone out there really has it out for someone, they can take screenshots of entire comment histories and identify, share it all. There's always multitudes of methods to beat anonymity, which can be scary. Nothing is ever safely anonymous or removable on the internet. Always share the link only. Ugh. It's a good thing he got outed, though. Oh my god, sorry to hear that, but there's some kind of bad thing at the end of the story. You had to stop him doing that even in some other ways. Hope you guys are good now. This is a funny, how did I not know this about you moment. Several years ago, I was flipping around on the television and came across something or other about the band Disturbed. Just like that, out of nowhere, my husband started basically giving me a biography of every member of the band, as though it was all common knowledge. We had been together about 10 years at this point, and I had no idea he even liked Disturbed, much less knew so much about them. He'd literally never talked about it before. Surprised the heck out of me. I've listened to Disturbed since I was in 8th grade, and I'm now in my late 20s. My mom has heard me play their songs, talk about them, and how I was bummed I missed their concert in my town 10 years ago. 6 months ago, she heard their cover of Sound of Silence and has started to listen to them. Said, how did I never know about them before? Do you listen to them? Yeah, Mom, for about 12 years now. My boyfriend does this with me sometimes. We'll be looking online at random stuff, and I find out he's super into this show that aired 50 years ago on cable TV and will tell me how it changed his life with no prior knowledge on my end. He even knew what it was. LOL. This has happened to me with my wife, who I've been with 15 years. 2 times that are the most memorable. Once at a wedding, I found out she knows every word to American Pie and that she is a huge fan of Rihanna during her Super Bowl halftime show. Funny how things can still surprise you after years of knowing someone. This has happened to me with my wife, who I've been with 15 years. 2 times that are the most memorable. Once at a wedding, I found out she knows every word to American Pie and that she is a huge fan of Rihanna during her Super Bowl halftime show. Funny how things can still surprise you after years of knowing someone. After a decade together, my husband dropped a bombshell. Turns out he's a walking encyclopedia on the band Disturbed. Who knew? Certainly not me. I like those. Turned up at a party. A buddy of mine was there. Bodybuilder. He was taking steroids at the time. Doctor security at a rough Liverpool club. Hard bloke that you would not want to get the wrong side of. He was wearing a charming dress, impeccable makeup, and drinking a cocktail. For some reason, I'm dying to know what kind of dress. I imagine it's really difficult to find flattering dresses with that kind of body type, especially the arms. I'd guess probably strapless. Update. This party was about 20 years ago. It was a strapless dress with a floral design. What a refreshing story. I read the first paragraph and somehow expected it to have a terrible ending, saying that the bodybuilder murdered someone at the club where he worked. It's a big stereotype that most of the guys into drag/cross-dressing/etc. are the tall, muscular, hairy, barrel-chested, and masculine men when they aren't dressing up. I had a really rough-as-nails boss when I was a teenager. I ran into him dressed in drag when I was out on an underage drunken night out. Was quite a surprise, to say the least. Sure, sounds kinda weird, but that wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. Sounds like you guys were just buddies, not friends, yeah? Friends we were. He's passed away now, sadly. I knew his family, his dad, his brothers, and his children. I even knew his dog. It's also touching to hear that your friendship went deep, knowing his family, his dog, the whole shebang. True connections go way beyond the surface, don't they? And even though your buddy has passed away, the memories of those surprising and lively moments must be pretty special. I had a friend in high school who was so nice to me and everyone I knew. He was a transfer from another school. Everyone liked him. We all would hang out with him in and outside of school. Go to parties with him, etc. We came into school one Monday, and he wasn't there. Then he didn't show up for a few days. No one knew what had happened to him. Then we all learned on the news that he had murdered someone during a gang initiation via a drive-by. He shot and killed a random man who was coming out of a Walmart with bags full of baby supplies. It took a couple of days, but him and the driver were both caught. He has life in prison, if I remember correctly. One of our teachers, who he was a TA for, visited him for years after. She would bring him books to read. She may still be in contact with him, I'm not sure. Mine is similar. I'll give you the short version. Boy I was at school with, we were really good mates through first and middle school, bonded over a shared love of football. We went to different high schools and drifted apart. He went on to be a professional footballer, living the dream. Then he got done for a drive-by shooting, not gang initiation, part of a wider gang turf war. And he's doing life now. He was a lovely kid, then a successful adult, then a murderer. I don't know what happened. Oh, and we live near Wembley in London, not fucking Compton or wherever. The victim was also a footballer on the cusp of greatness, and the victim's, mum correctly pointed out that the killer had thrown two promising lives away at once. And for what? Stupid macho fantasy bollocks. What an idiot. What a low life form he is. There's gotta be something you can do about that. There's a special place in hell for him. Do not let him get away with this. You deserve to be recognized for your work. One of my very closest friends, we did everything together. I referred to this girl as my sister. She had some severe mental health problems, and some people had warned me to keep my distance, but I loved her and thought she'd never want to hurt me. Then one day when she was drunk, she told me that if she ever committed suicide, she'd arrange it so I was the one to find her body. She trusted that I'd know what to do. She expected me to be flattered. Couple of years later, she tried to do exactly that, then was furious with me when I called 911. Yeah. I had an ex that threatened suicide when we broke up. That was mad when I called for a health check and told them he threatened to kill himself. I've had too many people do that for real that I will not be responsible for someone else doing it. Happened to me too. I called the police, then his mother immediately after on my friend's phone. I stayed on my phone with him until I heard his mom barging into the house. Told him to be well, hung up, and haven't heard a thing from him in 10 years. 10 years ago, I missed a call at 4 a.m., called voicemail, and heard a cryptic, "Thanks for everything," and stuff, with wind blowing in the background. Call back immediately. She's on a bridge 2 states away, and I can hear strong winds and cars in the background. Called police, met her at the hospital, and kept up for a few days, then never heard from her again. 10 years later, social media suggests she's probably alive and well, but hard to know because she mostly wiped her online presence. I don't know if you needed to hear this today, but you did the right thing. People turn to suicide because they think they've tried everything and there's no way out of their suffering. They tell loved ones or anyone because deep down, they hope that there's another solution. Nobody wants to die if there's another way to stop their suffering. When you call police, you deprive them of what they perceived as their only way out, so they feel betrayed. They're not mentally well enough to understand you had their best interests in mind. Only you know that in the end, you probably helped them bridge the gap to a real solution to their problems. I hope your memory of that event sits well with you. Thank you. Oh, that's horrible. But in her way of thinking, you would let her succeed in getting out of pain. Obvious, deep mental illness. She doesn't think about how someone has to find her and the implications for them psychologically. I hope she has gone to get help. I thought I knew my parents until I had my own kids. Now I feel like they're just people who were in the house while I was growing up a lot of the time. There's probably a huge disconnect between the family and having a village to be around when you need help raising kids. Me and my husband don't have it either with any of our parents, and it really makes you feel alone. There is some help very rarely, but it's always told that it was such a hassle to watch their grandkids for an hour while we run to store together for a break when we visit them. Then you realize, as you were growing up, your parents weren't ever there for you either, and only did things when it benefited them. My parents are like white poster cards, perfect to the point it's almost annoying. I had literally the perfect family always be there if I need them, love me, but we just not close or talk about our personal issues. Don't really know what's going on in each other's lives compared to friends or even coworkers. I never noticed until one of my old girlfriends pointed out how my family is distant and doesn't care. She pointed out how much her family calls her, acts together, and care about what's going on in her life. Points how I had so many big moments in my life without telling them, or then knowing and not reaching out. Hit me hard, but still luckiest man alive to have them. Simple yet powerful truth stated here. Hit me like a brick over the head. Thank you for sharing. You put words on a feeling I've had for a while. My mum. I thought she loved me. I thought she had basic empathy for people. Recently, she caused something extremely traumatic to happen to me and my sister, to gain back some of the control she lost when my sister decided to date someone out of our culture, and she has no remorse at all. All that matters to her is gaining control. Everyone told me that my mum controls us because she loves and worries for us, but it's clear now she is deeply mentally ill and does not feel empathy for people. Understanding this, I look back at the past 19 years of interactions I've had with her. There are many moments she had pretended to be vulnerable, understanding, and loving as one of the many tactics she used to gain what she wants, and I bought it. She would allow me to trust her and confide in her, and later weaponize that information. I don't know why it took me so long to realize. I don't know this person. She is a brilliant actress who stops at nothing to get what she wants. I don't love her anymore, and I wouldn't feel a thing if I was to attend her funeral tomorrow. I've just learned about the growing up with narcissistic parents communities, and it sounds like you might benefit in case you weren't aware of them. I've joined support subreddits myself, and sometimes it's really nice. I'm so sorry, and I really feel for you. I had a similarly abusive and narcissistic mother, and went no contact for about a year until I woke up one day and learned she had successfully ended her own life. Before then, I said the same thing and thought I'd feel nothing if she died. But I did, and you might too. I was severely grieving not her, but the mother I missed out on my whole life, and the relationship I never got to have, the relationship everyone around me seemed to have with their mothers. So please be kind to yourself if you do feel these things. You may be grieving in this way now already, and losing her for good may stir those feelings up again one day, and that's okay. You have my respect for realizing she was controlling even when others told you otherwise. Sorry you're in that situation, and hope you and your sister will be okay. A friend I met at uni in first year while studying psychology. Friends for 6 years and far along in our journey of study. Very long pathway to become a registered psychologist here. We're both mums to young kids doing the study, parent juggle, in regular contact supporting each other with the study load. She had a breakdown and quickly spiraled into alcohol and meth addiction from a very affluent family, supportive husband, walked away from her life, child protection involvement. Saw her earlier this year at her birthday party thrown by her family, and she is a shell of her former self, tweaking and twitching, paranoid, disorganized thinking and speech, completely psychotic. I'm grieving the loss of my friend. I'm so sad and I miss her so much. She's too far gone. I don't think she'll ever recover. I graduated, got qualified, just about to get my clinical endorsement, and it's bittersweet because she's not beside me. Mine too. The worst part is when you get glimpses and glimmers of the person they used to be. Though it's like an illusion. Sometimes it happens right before a relapse or as a trick to get you to let your guard down. I hate what drugs have taken. It's like an imposter wearing their face. Those glimmers give you hope, then steal it away. I will always love my little sibling, even if there's someone else now. I've met lots of recovered people, though. I'm just hoping that someday my sibling will be one of them.